Hi everyone. Very glad to have Suraj here with us. Suraj has been, closely associated with us, Deffolio, since the past couple of years. We've known him well, and he was one of he's worn multiple hats. Across startups. Now he's at Grafana Labs. Before that, he was at Clarisites, joined in as the engineer number 10 there, while still a college student. So he was a 6 month intern, and then that got led to a more than 2.5 years long stint at Clarisight. So he has seen it all from how the entire life cycle of an early stage startup, from hiring other early engineers to looking into uh, everything that it takes to scale a startup. He's done it all. So we're very glad to have him here. And in case you're interested in knowing what it takes to work at an early stage startup and why it is as rewarding as I personally think it is, you should definitely uh, take some insights from Suraj. At the end of the session, we'll have some time for questions as well. So in the meantime, you can just put them in the Q&A section, and then we'll take them up at the end of the session. So with that, I think I'll hand over the stage to Suraj to take it ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Denver. That was what do you say? Really nice intro. I don't think I've done it all, but I'll share whatever I have learned from my
Sure.
short stint in this space. And so yeah, so this is more like a personal experience and not, like what do you say, definitive truth, or if I use the word gyan. So don't take it as gyan, don't take it as, absolute truth. This is just my experience. Yeah. So first I'll talk about who am I. Like I don't like titles. Like I don't want to put a title. I just build software that solve problems. I think myself as a builder, not as a engineer or a coder, or like what do you say, other fancy titles that people like to put. Currently, as Denver said, currently working at Grafana. Before that, I was at Clarisites, joined in early days before Clarisites was called Clarisites. Like it was known as Advise. We pivoted, built the new product, killed the old one. Your typical startup stuff. Yeah. Uh, so on the interwebs, you can find me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. And other places also, like I pretty much have the same handle because I don't know how I got it, but I got it. uh, the slides for this talk are available on my website. They're live now, but don't go. Watch the talk and after that, go get the slides. Yeah. So I'll do a quick raise of hands. Just do the thumbs up reaction if you can. So how many of you are student, like currently studying or in college? Okay, yeah, I see quite a few students. Yeah. How many of you are working professional, like people who are working in industry, or like the software engineer or any other roles? I'm assuming most of my audience here is software engineers. Oh, yeah, I see a bunch of light bulbs, thumbs up. Okay, yeah. So I think I have the right audience. So just before I go ahead with the talk, I'll say what this talk is about. So this talk is about what I learned, and again, a disclaimer: uh, this is personal experience. This is in no way personal truth. Also, please don't go and cancel me. I don't think I'm famous enough to be cancelled, but just please don't. Yeah. Also, what this talk is not about. That I care about this part more dearly because this talk is not about how to get a job at startup. I'm assuming you are curious, you are interested on how the startup life works. That's why you're here. Also, I'm not going to tell you how to find there is a typo, I made my slides last minute. That's what happens when you, so it's how you find what you like doing, or about climbing that corporate ladder, or crushing it, that kind of stuff. Also, no hustle culture here. Don't expect me to praise overworking. I will not. uh, Also, what we will talk about. So a brief rundown will be, like the quick difference between, what you observe in university or college, and how things work in industry, how things work in startups, how things work in big company, and couple of things about our monkey brain, including imposter syndrome, and also burnout, which is very near and dear to my heart. So let's, like, since many of you are students, you are used to university life, go attend classes, give exams, get grades, bumped into next semester, and so on. And that's how the wheel of uh, what do you say, education goes on, if I say so. uh, so in industry, there are no grades. Like, nobody is going to grade you, nobody is going to judge you for being wrong. In industry, you are expected to be wrong, and most of the time you are wrong, and you will fail. So what is expected is that you fail and you learn and you don't make the same mistake again. Making mistakes is fine as long as you don't do that twice. While in college, people are not encouraged to make mistakes. You're supposed to be right. You're supposed to, uh, learn up and get good grades. That's not how industry works, because uh, what is considered cheating in your college, that's pretty standard in industry. Like, you're supposed to collaborate and work things out. So good thing about industry is that you cheat all the time, from college point of view. Yeah. So another big thing that I observe when I see folks enter industry is they are used to silent agreements. Like, your teacher said something, even if it was wrong, you don't speak up, or you can't speak up because they'll, slash your marks, they'll fail you the class or something like that. Because they're older, they're senior. That's what is taught in society also. Like, don't question that older uncle who's wrong, like, even if they are wrong. But in industry, it's other way round, right? You're supposed to ask questions. If you don't agree with something, don't just nod your head and sit down. Just say that you don't agree. You don't have to silently agree to anything. Yeah. And role doesn't really mean anything in startups. Even if someone is founder, uh, and if they're saying something you don't agree, just say, this is wrong, I don't agree. So, and in fact, disagreements are encouraged. You're supposed to disagree if you think what you what they are saying is wrong, or what someone is saying is wrong. And that's how you're supposed to collaborate and learn in industry. Like, you might, turns out they might be right, and you might learn something new. But if you don't speak up, you'll stay you'll hold that notion in your head that, no, I was right, they were wrong, and you will miss out on learning something. So disagree, and explain why you're disagreeing, and you might get schooled, but in a good way. You learn something, or they'll learn something from you, and they'll appreciate that. So disagree. Like, also, another thing that is contrary to popular belief is that coders just sit down, work, or engineers for that matter of fact. That's not really true. What you're supposed to do is, you're supposed to talk it out, figure things out, seek help. Like, there are no brownie points for doing things on your own. And as I said it before, cheating is the name of the game. You always cheat, you always discuss, you always collaborate. Like, that's how things work in industry. Don't be surprised when you can't, like, you see people working together on things, and people say that, oh, I'm supposed to do this on my own. No, you don't have to do it something on your own. You have to If you don't know, if you don't understand something, and even if you understand something, collaboration will just mean that now you taught someone something, or now you learned something new that you didn't knew before. So seeking help and also helping others, your peers, is expected and encouraged in industry. Also, another term that gets thrown around in industry is everyone is adult here. Like people just say it all the time. It's like everyone is adult here. Everyone is like, what does that mean? That means that like you will be asked to give feedback to your peers. Like whenever there a formal or informal review will happen, whenever your one-on-one meetings will happen. If you have a manager or if you don't have a manager, you will be asked to give feedback. Feedback on almost everything, and also you will be given feedback, or if you're not given the feedback, you should be seeking feedback, that like uh, places where you can improve, you can get better, and you should aim to improve on things, because that's how we grow. uh, so everyone is adult here means that feedback should not be personal, and it should not be taken personally. If someone said something, they mean it in a constructive way most of the time. I'm using the word most of the time for obvious reasons. But yeah, so don't get confused when people say everyone is adult here. It just doesn't mean that like you are grown up. It means acting like grown up even if you are not 21 plus, or you can't legally drink. Yeah. So so another thing that trumps up people is like people think our job is to write code. That is not the job. So when you enter the industry, people get confused, and they think that, oh, I didn't write any code, I didn't do my job. So like, do like thumbs up or do anything if you think that like you consider yourself an engineer, right? Yeah. So I see few. Okay. Yeah. So few people can consider themselves an engineer. Okay. So what really is an engineer's job? Like, to like, from my point of view, an engineer's job is to not write code. An engineer's job is to solve problems. That problem can come in various ways. Like, it might be a problem that your customer have. It might be a problem that you or your coworker have, or your company have. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to problem solving. And we have heard that word so much that like it's what do you say, a marketing, or what do you say, a buzzwordish word now. But what it really means, that writing code is the least important part of your job. The most important part of your job is to knowing what to build, and even more important part of your job is to knowing what not to build. What you will observe in industry is the customer will come and ask and say, hey, give me a button to do X. But most of the time customer doesn't know any better, right? So what they are asking for, like when they are asking for button on some page, they might have some other problem. It's like, people asked for faster horse carriages, they didn't knew that they wanted cars, right? So your job is to figure out what really is the problem, and instead of giving them a button, figure out if there is a better way to solve that problem, where you don't even have to add the button, or they don't even have to click a button. And this is something that happened with me firsthand. So like, story time. I was talking to a customer, and there's like, I want to see when my data is fresh, when my data for the day is updated. So can you give me a button which I can click, and it will tell me when the data was refreshed? So then I was like, uh, you don't need a button. What you actually need is, you need a notification. But customer didn't knew that we can add or show notifications in the product, right? So instead of giving them a button, we gave them a notification. And then they was like, oh, now this is much better, because now I don't even have to come to your website and check. You tell me when it is fresh, and then I can come and see data. Like, I don't have to wait. So this actually happens a lot. And so yeah, that is your job. Your job is not writing code. Writing code is just part of the job. Yeah. And other important part of your job is to solving problem with others. So basically, if you see a problem that you don't understand, you ask others for help. Others will collaborate on it, help you, and you help others when they are stuck on something and they need your help. So collaboration and figuring out what to do and what not to do is your job. Yeah. So other other thing that people get hung up on is, which framework to use, which cool new thing to do. Oh, let's learn this stack, let's do that stack. That is the stack how everybody is doing. This is the cool new hip language, I don't know that language. Like, people get into language wars, framework wars. uh, that's not what you should be doing. Have you seen any carpenter fight about like type of saw that they like? Oh, I like this saw better than this saw, we should fight. No, like, coding is a tool. It's your saw that you should be using to solve. A carpenter uses his tools to make furniture, make things, right? And you use code to solve problems, and that can be like any problem. So as long as your problem, that tool solves your problem, you shouldn't really care. Your customers don't care. Like, how many of you use Facebook and care that Facebook was built using PHP? I'm assuming not many people even like most of the Facebook users don't even know, and they don't care that it is written in PHP. But when you go into language wars, people will go, PHP is trash. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can build $1 billion companies with PHP. People say, oh, Rails doesn't scale, but like, people are building GitHub with Rails. People are building Shopify with Rails. So this just proves that all these framework wars, all these language wars, they're not worth. Just think of that as a tool. Think of that as your saw. Think of that as your shovel, and focus on the problem, not on the petty fight on the internet about frameworks. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Also, so that was industry versus college. Now I'll talk about startups versus big company. So there is quite a lot of difference on how things work in startup world and how things work in big company. uh, Startup is small. There is not a lot of people, quite a lot of work, and there is little to no structure. uh, People do things to stay alive. In big companies, things are much more structured, things are much more planned. You have a set role and you're supposed to do that role. So like, that is 1,000 feet overview-ish difference between big company and startup. But as I like to say, startups are embodiment of chaos, right? Don't expect like, in startup, things change overnight. You might know that, oh, we were doing this today, we have to abandon that. And you might need to do something on short deadline because you need cash from that deal that you really really need to survive for next 3 months, right? So there is no free form long term plan, because the long term, like, startup can't think long term because they don't have that luxury, they don't have the cash, they don't have that runway, right? Like, some startups do, but like, again, so Paytm is calling themselves a startup, but they are not really a startup, right? So like, I call them fake startups. So I'm talking about startups who are seed stage, or 10 to 15 folks. Yeah. So so like, they don't even know that they'll survive 6 months. Like, what will they do with the 1 year plan, right? Like, the 1 year plan is worth nothing if your company is dead in 6 months. So, and that brings out so much chaos, so much what do you say, unstructured, and you have to think on your feet, get things done. Like, there is no clear boundaries, there is no meetings, you just get things done. That's what's important in a startup one. While in big company, in startup, you end up doing many things. When I was at Clarisites, i I did almost everything. I did like I didn't write any front end stuff, and I didn't do any sales. But other than that, I pretty much did almost everything that was there to be done to get things working. So I did customer support, like, but when you go in a big company, you you have much more structure. So things that you get to do in a startup, there are fully dedicated teams. So there are dedicated teams for hiring, there are dedicated teams for customer support in big companies. So you will not get to do those things, you will never experience those things uh, in big companies. So, and also there is much more structure. You'll know what you want, you will be doing in the next 3 months, what you will be doing in the next 6 months. But in a startup, things can change overnight. Also, learnings and growth in a startup, there is much more to learn than what is there in a big company. In big company, as I said, you have a set role, and you will be only doing that role. Maybe you will collaborate with other teams to uh, successfully do your role, but at the end of the day, you are doing your role. But on the startup, you end up doing all the things. As I said, you end up doing hiring, you end up doing customer support, you end up doing whatever is required to uh, stay alive. And that means when you do more things, you learn more things, you explore more sides of the, what do you say, dice. You see customers up close, you see the hiring problem up close, like you see everything up close, instead of getting an overview in a meeting. And that means you have more scope for personal growth, more scope for learning. And if you're unsure on which direction you want to go, uh, and you just have something in the mind, just like startup allows you to experiment and try out different things, because there is no VP or anything sitting there. You don't have to file up request to join teams, change teams. There is no concept of transfers, because everyone is working as a one team, everyone does everything. So yeah. So another thing that people get confused about is how a big company is giving me big bucks, but this startup is only giving me money that will just survive. But that, in my opinion, that is not the correct way to look at the startup role. When you are early in your career, your learning and growth is much more valuable than the cash that you get, because the learning and the growth that you will do in your early day, that will result in much more cash in your later life than whatever that big company was offering. So the correct way to value your role at a startup is just look at, like, if the startup has high learning, if it has a high growth potential, and if it has decent earning. And I'm saying decent earning is because you don't I don't want you to think about that, oh, rent is due, I have to ask my parents. If you're doing that, then clearly something is wrong. I do not recommend that stage. Yeah. So and then another thing that I ask people, I know this is a slightly privileged or biased question. Not everybody has the luxury uh, to find things that they like to do, but I'm asking it anyway. So, like, if you don't like what you do, there is a, like, you will not survive at a startup. You will have a hard time, and the reason is that in a startup you work long hours. But if you think that like you're working long hours and you're not getting anything for those long hours, uh, and if you think of getting things in terms of monetary terms and not the learning and the growth potential, uh, then first of all, you're looking at that in a wrong way. And another, like, you will burn out much more quickly, like much faster pace than someone who likes what they do. And as I said, in a startup, there is much more work than there are hands to go around. So just to be sure that you will, you to survive, basically to survive in a startup, you need to have some sort of I don't want to use the word passion because it has wrong connotations, but something like that. You should be excited about the work that you do. If you get up in the morning and think that, oh, I have to go to work, probably you are not excited about that work, and you will have a hard time at a startup also. So another thing that I see in folks who are fresh from college, that, oh, everybody knows much more than me, I don't know anything, uh, and that is like, I was suffering from imposter syndrome. I still suffer from imposter syndrome, right? I still think that, even though I know what imposter syndrome is, and I shouldn't be thinking about that, I still think, because our brains are, I don't know, they are monkey brains. uh, but the imposter syndrome is very real, and it gets you. So whenever, let's say, you meet five people, you see, oh, this person knows this person knows this person knows. Your brain actually takes a union of all that, and then you think that everybody knows everything. But in reality, your brain just played a trick on you. Not everybody knows everything. Like, you just took a union of things that three people know, and you assumed that everybody knows everything. Everybody knows as same as you. If somebody knows something that you don't know, probably they have invested hours, months, or years. And if you will invest that time, you will also know that, and you will probably know more than that, because over time, uh, you have access to much more information. And also, getting a mentor in your career, whoever that is, like, really helps with this imposter syndrome monster. uh, because then, like, you cannot console yourself that, oh, everybody knows same as me. You need some external feedback that, no, you're suffering from imposter syndrome, and if required, seeking professional help is also good. Like, people frown upon on seeking professional help, but I think that is very much needed, and it helps you in much more ways. So, like, don't think twice. If you think you need professional help, go get some. Also, it's imposter syndrome has a close cousin, that's Dunning-Kruger. uh, it's basically, if you know very little about something, you will be overconfident and you will think that you know more. And experts in a field tend to, uh, what to say, downplay or undervalue what they know. So if and that is also a tricky monkey brain trick, as, like, you can't get around it. You just be aware of it, that things like this exist. So yeah, that was a side note. Also, talking to professionals is much better way to deal with these things than listening to me and then googling things out. So if you need, just go talk to professionals. Yeah. Also, another thing that comes in the startup is, people say, oh, passion. If you're passionate about that, if you're passionate about this, sure, passion is there, but again, the word got hijacked, and now people started making those videos sitting in front of Lambos in their garage, um, and say, if you're passionate about this, like, the word is hijacked and it has lost its meaning. And another thing that I want to talk about is burnout. So what you see every day on Twitter is this. Like, everybody talks about hustle culture, like, hustle this, hustle that, hustle. Like, no, you shouldn't, and you don't. Like, you shouldn't have to hustle, and you shouldn't have to work all the time, and you shouldn't have to do these things that people brag about. In, like, from my point of view, a sustained effort towards something is much, like, it will take you far ahead of hustle culture. Like, hustle culture will just result in a burnout. You will burn out, and then you'll hate what you are doing, and you will stop doing that thing. Or worse yet, you will hate yourself, that why did you do that. So, like, just ignore all the gurus, ignore all the gyans, just take some breaks, uh, and don't burn out. And there is a very cliche saying, but it is quite accurate, that is like you can't run a marathon like a 100-meter race. Like and Oh, I see, Rohan. Burnout. Yeah, burnout is very real. Take breaks, like whenever you can. Even knowing that you're burning out is like it's hard. You will know once you have burned out, and after that, seek help. Just avoid burnout at all costs. That's what I'm saying. If you don't know you are burned out or not, take some breaks where you keep your laptop in a bag. You don't even open your laptop. Shut down your phone, uh, and just do nothing for 2-3 days every few months. Uh, yeah. Also, that was pretty much it from my point of view. Whatever you have questions, like write it up. And this is the things that I keep going back uh, to again and again. So like these are the essays or the talks or whatever, say the readings that gets me pumped, gets me hyped. So the first one is like the days are long but the decades are short, from Sam Altman. If you guys don't know about Sam Altman, he is like, I think he does something at Y Combinator. I don't really know what he does, but he is associated with Y Combinator. And if you don't know about Y Combinator, just Google it, or just Google Sam Altman. You'll know more about him. And other thing that I keep going back to back, like I read every few months or so, is Don't Call Yourself a Programmer and Other Career Advice from Patrick McKenzie. This, like, people don't really know him by the name Patrick McKenzie. He goes on the internet by name Patty11. But this essay is very long, so just get a cup of coffee or tea and read it on a big screen device. Like, it's a long essay, but it's worth reading every word, and some solid advice in there. Another talk that I share with folks who are new or folks who are seeking advice is, we all are in technical field, right? And in technical field, getting and giving help is bit tricky. So this talk by Shasha on giving and getting technical help is absolute gem. It helped me out in so many ways. So this is another thing that you should check it out. Also, that's all from me. Thank you, everyone. And again, builders build, hackers hack. So keep building, don't burn out. And yeah. Also, these slides are up on my website, so you can get those links. And also, I'll tweet it out after the talk on Twitter. So yeah, that's all from me.
Hey Suraj, thanks for that amazing session, and a lot of the things certainly ring very true. Like and sometimes it's difficult to kind of take a step back as you're living that life and try to examine. But I think you really did a good job in pointing those things out, and certainly makes you value the startup experience much more. um, and so now we have some time for questions. If anybody would uh, you can either put them up in the Q&A section, um, or we can even have you on stage if you would like to. Just probably wait a minute or so for if there are any questions.
Also, side note, I'll be hanging out in the lounge. I'm sure that's what it is called
Yeah,
after this talk. So
yeah.
come uh, chat and bring out your questions. Also, like If you are building something and if you need help, more than happy to help. My background is mostly Ruby on Rails guy, Postgres databases, DevOps stuff. So, like, if you're building something in this hackathon, or if you're building something as a product, as a company, like, my Twitter, just reach out to me over DM, even after the launch is there. Or also, my other contact methods are on my website. So I appreciate whoever is building something, whoever is trying to, get things going. So, like, and it is always, let's say, abs- exciting to help folks who are building new things. Yeah. So
So thanks a lot, Suraj, for that. And I think people will be looking forward uh, to meeting you in the lounge. I think that's okay. I think there is one question here that you can take up. It says, should we keep doing the big company job or leave it for learning benefits of startups? So I'm assuming this is someone uh,
yeah,
who has already joined a big company. Should they continue with the job or leave it for a startup?
I mean, I think this is to each his own, right? So the first thing that they should ask is, like, what what do they want to do? Like, do they want to uh, ride that career, like, what do you say, the corporate ladder, or are they interested in finding out what is out there? Like, what is out there other than what they are getting to do at big company, right? If you are interested in knowing how products are built, how companies are run, how things are done, from ground up, then startup, like, working in a startup will tell you that. But again, as I said, do your due diligence and see if you can afford. Like, there is a saying that startups are default dead. So there is an inherent risk in joining a startup, that you might not have a job after 6 months or so, and you and all of your coworker, including the founders, because the company just ran out of money, right? But the upside, like, there is a huge risk, but there is also a huge growth and learning potential, right? If you cannot take that risk, just get some personal runway. Save some, like, just like startups have runway, you can have a personal runway.
Right.
So work for a while at a big company, save some cash, so you can absorb that crash, and then, you know go and work at a big company. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Rohan has an interesting question here.
yeah. So Rohan is my ex-colleague at Clarisites. So yeah, I know this is a joke question, but you
Oh,
should
that's
talk
fine.
to Srijan if you're interested in working at Clarisites. That's my comment. Also, there is
Yeah.
another question from Dipesh. We don't have much exposure to startups in robotics like China or Japan. That is true. The hardware startups are hard to build, because in software startups you can iterate uh, in week, right? In startup, so you need that fast iteration, and in China you have that ecosystem, you have that manufacturing uh, facilities where you can get your prototypes done in a week. But there are a few good hardware startups that are being done in India. But again, it is hard because we don't have that, rapid prototyping typing facilities. But in case of software, like, your laptop is your factory. You don't need a factory,
Yeah.
right? So that's why software starts.
Yeah. There's another question. I've heard that while joining startups, they prefer people with higher technical skills. Is it true?
Yeah. So I'm not sure what Anurag means by technical skills. So the only thing that I think a startup cares about is, can you build things? be it front end, be it back end, like just be useful from the day one
Right.
and share the workload. So if you are useful from the day one, that's the only thing that startup cares about. Like they don't really care. So a fun fact: when I was joining Clarisites, then Advise, uh, the whole stack was in Ruby on Rails. I didn't knew Ruby. I didn't knew Rails. I learned it before coming over for internship. So they don't really care about the exact skills. What
Right.
they care about is, can you build things. You know. So no, as I said, frameworks, languages, they are tools. You know, like you will learn,
Right.
and they are easy to learn relatively compared to things like what to build, what not to build. Yeah.
We ourselves, in fact, had a very similar experience at Devfolio. So even since the beginning, I think we have always, valued people who have built stuff out of their own interest and who are passionate about, really uh, their craft. And it doesn't matter, which college or anything they're from. We have never like I think we probably find out, which college or something they're from much later on. Once, probably once we catch up or something, that's when we ask. When we get to know each other better, that's when we come to know about it, and that's something that that mostly is never in the picture. So, as a startup, you're all important, cogs in the wheel, in a sense. So in a vehicle, like if any wheel fails, so then the vehicle can't move ahead. So it's very essential that you make yourself useful, like Suraj said from the day one. And uh, and if you are up for learning anything that it takes to move the startup ahead, then that's pretty much it. And that's probably what people look for, at least early stage founders look for while hiring. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the questions that we have for the day. And again, so Suraj will be joining us in the lounge at 6 p.m. And look forward to hearing all your project ideas there. And see you all then. Thanks
uh,
again, Suraj, for joining us.
yeah. See you, folks. Go grab some, tea and coffee. See you at 6.